In a move that sent shockwaves through the entire aviation world, the Federal Aviation Administration has made a decision that few saw coming. Despite a catastrophic crash involving an Air India Boeing 787 Dreamliner, the FAA has chosen not to ground the global Dreamliner fleet, leaving many industry insiders and the public both surprised and concerned. Typically, after such a devastating incident, the standard protocol would be to immediately ground all similar aircraft until a thorough investigation is completed and safety can be assured. However, the FAA's decision to keep the Dreamliners flying has sparked intense debate and raised serious questions about the agency's current regulatory priorities and its willingness to take bold action in the face of tragedy. Boeing, already under a harsh spotlight for a series of safety lapses and a corporate culture that critics say puts profits ahead of passenger safety, now finds itself at the center of even greater scrutiny. The FAA's ruling has only intensified the controversy, fueling public outcry and prompting heated debates among aviation experts, lawmakers, and safety advocates. At the same time, the FAA has approved a request from American Airlines to reduce the minimum number of cabin crew required on its newest 787s, a decision that has added yet another layer of controversy to the agency's recent actions. Flight attendant unions have fiercely opposed this move, arguing that it puts both crew and passengers at greater risk and undermines decades of hard-won safety standards. These back-to-back decisions have cast a long shadow over the FAA's reputation, leading many to question whether the agency is still prioritizing passenger safety above all else. Some experts warn that this could signal a broader shift toward greater risk tolerance in U.S. aviation oversight, potentially putting the flying public in harm's way. For many in the industry, as well as for countless travelers and their families, the FAA's recent actions have become a source of deep unease and growing mistrust, leaving the future of aviation safety in the U.S. more uncertain than ever. The crisis began on a seemingly ordinary June morning in 2025, when Air India Flight 171 took off from Mumbai International Airport, bound for London. Within minutes, disaster struck, forever altering the course of aviation history. The Boeing 787-8 Dreamliner, carrying over 250 passengers and crew, lost control and plunged into a densely populated neighborhood just after takeoff. The impact was catastrophic, flattening homes and igniting fires that raged for hours. The disaster claimed the lives of nearly everyone on board, as well as dozens of unsuspecting residents on the ground. Grieving families gathered at the crash site while emergency workers searched for survivors amid the devastation. The tragedy sent shockwaves through the global aviation community, raising urgent questions about air safety. The Dreamliner, once celebrated for its cutting-edge technology and fuel efficiency, was suddenly thrust into the spotlight for all the wrong reasons. With Boeing's recent troubled history still fresh in memory, the crash reignited worldwide fears about the safety of modern aircraft. In response, India's Aviation Authority wasted no time, grounding all 787s in the country and launching immediate sweeping inspections. The move underscored the gravity of the situation and the urgent need to restore public confidence in air travel. Meanwhile, the U.S. Federal Aviation Administration took a more measured approach, opting for a cautious review rather than immediate action. This difference in response sparked heated international debate over how best to ensure passenger safety. Amid the chaos, a single survivor emerged, a young child, pulled from the wreckage by rescue workers. The child's survival became a poignant symbol of hope and resilience even as the world mourned the immense loss. As investigators raced to uncover the cause of the crash, anxious crowds gathered at airports and glued themselves to news broadcasts. The world waited breathlessly for answers, as the tragedy's impact reverberated far beyond India's borders, shaking the very foundations of global aviation. Despite mounting pressure, the FAA refused to ground the 787 fleet, citing a lack of conclusive evidence linking the crash to a design flaw. The agency insisted its decisions are data-driven, and that grounding hundreds of planes requires clear proof of a systemic risk. Critics, however, saw echoes of the FAA's delayed response during the 737 MAX crisis, accusing the agency of protecting Boeing's interests over public safety. The split between India's urgent inspections and the FAA's inaction created confusion and eroded trust in global aviation oversight. Passengers were left wondering why safety standards seemed to differ so drastically between countries. The FAA's decision comes at a time when Boeing is grappling with what many consider its most severe crisis in decades, shaking the very foundation of the company's reputation for safety and reliability. Once a symbol of American engineering excellence, Boeing now finds itself under intense scrutiny from regulators, the public, and the aviation industry worldwide. A string of fatal crashes, ongoing quality control failures, and a wave of damning whistleblower allegations have all contributed to a growing sense of unease. Each new revelation seems to further erode trust in the company's ability to ensure passenger safety. The 737 MAX disasters, which led to the grounding of fleets around the globe, exposed deep flaws in Boeing's safety culture and decision-making processes. These tragedies triggered criminal investigations and forced the company to confront uncomfortable truths about its internal practices. Yet, even after these high-profile incidents, Boeing has continued to face setbacks. Subsequent events, including the Air India 787 crash, have kept the company in the headlines, raising fresh concerns about whether meaningful change is actually taking place. Lawmakers and safety advocates have become increasingly vocal, accusing Boeing's leadership of putting profits and production speed ahead of engineering rigor and passenger safety. The pressure on the company's executives has never been higher. Congressional hearings have forced Boeing's top officials to make public admissions of failure, acknowledging mistakes that have cost lives and shaken public confidence. Despite these admissions and promises of reform, many industry observers and the public remain deeply skeptical. There's a widespread belief that the company's pledges to overhaul its safety culture are little more than empty words. The board of directors, still dominated by business interests and financial priorities, has been criticized for lacking meaningful representation from engineers or frontline workers who understand the technical realities of aircraft manufacturing. This disconnect has fueled concerns that the voices of those most familiar with safety and quality issues are being drowned out by corporate agendas. As a result, the ongoing crisis of confidence has left both the public and regulators questioning whether Boeing's fundamental problems have truly been addressed, or if deeper systemic issues remain unresolved. The Dreamliner's troubles are now seen not as isolated incidents but as part of a much larger pattern of systemic failure, one that threatens to undermine Boeing's legacy and the future of American aviation. In the same month as the crash, the FAA approved American Airlines' request to reduce the minimum cabin crew on its new 787-9S from 8 to 7. Flight attendant unions condemned the move, warning it would compromise emergency evacuations and increase risks for both crew and passengers. The new premium-heavy layout means one attendant now covers 2 main exit doors, raising serious safety concerns. American Airlines argued that lower passenger density justified the reduction, but critics say this ignores the complexities of real emergencies. The decision is widely seen as a cost-cutting measure that puts operational convenience ahead of safety. For many, it's another sign that the FAA is prioritizing airline profits over the well-being of those on board. Adding to the Dreamliner's woes is a persistent and dangerous radio malfunction. VHF radios that spontaneously switch frequencies, risking missed instructions from air traffic control. The FAA ordered a software fix, but major operators like Qatar Airways reported the problem persisted, suggesting a deeper hardware or wiring flaw. This unresolved issue has fueled speculation about broader manufacturing defects within the 787's complex systems. Safety experts warn that such latent threats could lead to disaster, especially if crews can't reliably communicate during critical flight phases. The failure to resolve the glitch, even after regulatory intervention, has further eroded confidence in both Boeing's engineering and the FAA's oversight. The radio problem is now seen as a symbol of deeper, unaddressed flaws in the Dreamliner. It's a stark reminder that advanced technology doesn't guarantee safety if quality control is lacking. Whistleblowers have painted a grim picture of Boeing's manufacturing culture, alleging that quality control has been sacrificed for speed and profit. Some insiders believe the 787's radio issues may stem from fundamental production defects, not just software bugs. The tragic story of John Barnett, a former quality manager who raised alarms about substandard parts and later died under suspicious circumstances, has become a rallying point for critics. These accounts suggest that the Dreamliner's problems are not isolated, but part of a systemic failure in Boeing's factories. The cumulative effect is a pervasive doubt about the integrity of Boeing's aircraft and the willingness of regulators to confront uncomfortable truths. For many, the FAA's trust in the 787 seems reckless in light of mounting internal warnings. The FAA's recent actions have shaken the foundation of global aviation safety. By allowing the 787 to keep flying and approving crew reductions after a fatal crash, the agency has upended decades of precautionary practice. The lack of a unified international response has created confusion and undermined the idea of universal safety standards. Passengers now face uncertainty, not just about the Dreamliner, but about whether regulators are truly prioritizing their safety. The credibility of the FAA, once the gold standard, is now in question, with accusations of regulatory capture growing louder. If trust in the FAA collapses, the entire system of international aviation oversight could unravel. The stakes are enormous. Passenger confidence is the bedrock of air travel. Without it, the industry's future is at risk. The FAA's June rulings have sparked a fundamental question. Has profit overtaken safety in the world of commercial aviation? Boeing faces allegations of putting money before honesty, while whistleblowers describe a culture that punishes those who speak up for safety. The FAA's refusal to ground the 787 and its approval of crew reductions both benefit industry finances, but at what cost? Critics argue the agency is no longer an impartial watchdog, but a partner to the companies it's meant to regulate. For travelers, blind trust is no longer an option. Vigilance and transparency are now essential. The lesson is clear: when safety is compromised, the consequences are measured in lives. The world is watching to see if these warnings will be heeded before another disaster strikes.